Welcome back to Fuel Up Classic, and welcome to what I hope will be the first of a series of 3 videos documenting bringing my Jaguar XJ just simply up to a better standard. You see, this car turned 40 this week, and I think it was long overdue a good birthday present. And in truth, I have been putting off some of the bigger jobs on this car as I prioritise my other classics and other things going on in life, but I can't ignore it anymore. This XJ is now suffering from some very typical XJ issues. So hopefully, if you are interested in these cars, or you own one, or you even aspire to own one day, this video helps you in navigating some of the common corrosion issues that can occur with a model of XJ of this era. So with that in mind, let me move things along, because most of what I need to get addressed is at the rear of the vehicle. And if I come down here, show you some of the problems, because I think it's fair to say a lot of people would call this car a good 10-footer. And what I mean by that is, from 10 feet away, it looks great. The paintwork, metallic sage green on this one, it glimmers in the sunshine. Obviously a Series 3 XJ6 is quite a pretty looking car at the best of times, but get a little bit closer and there are some nasty bits dotted around now. And the first thing that I need to address is these rear wheel arches, really common rust spot on an XJ, but also of most cars now that are 40 plus years old. They have quite quickly turned from very small bubbles of rust to an alarming amount, actually. And you'll notice that it's spread up this rear wing, almost in a perfect line, from the fuel tank that sits in this inner wing here. 2 tanks on an XJ, let's not forget, so it affects both sides. Moisture gets trapped, and what a lot of people don't realise, the rust that you can see is usually only literally the scratching the surface. Most of these cars will rot from the inside out, and that means when you start poking around, digging, you'll find more rot than you first expected. So hopefully we won't get on too much of a painful journey with this car, but it needs to be addressed. It looks unsightly, it's not fitting for the car at all, and also I need to get it addressed before these bubbles turn into holes, because I don't think we'll be long until that's the case. Another really common rust point is the rear screen, or around the rear screen. Water simply collects in these corners over the years, moisture gets in, it's got nowhere to go, and basically it rots again from the inside out. And the only sign of it happening is when you start to get bubbling around the rear screen, which is what I've got now on both sides. It also affects the front windscreen as well on these, but I had that attended to on this car about 5 years ago, and it's held up very well since. But now it's time for the rear screen to be sorted. And of course, these jobs, they won't be 5-minute jobs. There's a little bit of juggling to do before we even get to the point of cutting out all this old metal, welding in new metal, and then indeed a new coat of paint over the affected areas as well. So I've broken it down into a series of sections, really. I'm involved. I'm basically going to do the donkey work on this project. I've got to strip the rear bumper off, the exhausts off, to enable my specialist to then drop both fuel tanks out of the car. And I don't think they've ever been out, so I'm expecting them to be a little bit of a fight. And indeed, we might have to replace them with some new tanks when it's time for everything to go back together. But also, I'm going to get somebody in to take the rear screen out. Now, years ago, I took the windscreen out of the front of this myself, but now there's a very, very limited supply out there of these chrome trims. If you damage them, well, you could be in for a world of trouble trying to find good replacements. So I'm going to leave that to the experts. They're going to come along, remove the screen. It will then go off to my trusted body shop that have worked on this car before, do all the associated body work, and then they'll come back and put everything back together again. So that's a very brief outline of the rear of the vehicle. There are some other little patches of bubbling around the car on the lower doors down here. The front wing as well has just started to bubble. Again, really common XJ rust spots. There's a reason that you don't see these cars much anymore. So many of them have succumbed to corrosion. They are usually very expensive to put right, and in truth, they've never been worth the kind of money that it takes to keep one of these in a really good order. It's always going to be a heart over head decision with one of these. I'm very fond of this car and I want to bring it up to a standard, but I'm under no illusion that the whole process is going to be time consuming and probably not particularly cheap either. But you're going to come along for the journey as well. I expect this to be over 3 videos. Next time, join me in part 2, where hopefully we're kind of halfway through the process. It might be looking a bit worse than it did now, but hopefully we have started the ball rolling. And then, of course, that final video, I will show you when it's all done, what's been done to get there, and I will also talk about the total costs of everything, because no one's under any illusion anymore that restoration work, in particular bodywork, is very expensive to get done these days. There's a reason that cars that need paintwork, bodywork, just aren't selling. Look at any recent auction results for everyday obtainable classics like this. If it needed a respray, well, you'd probably be looking at the best part of £6,000 to £8,000 for a half decent job, and that would rise considerably if they found more work that needed along the way. And that's pretty much the value of the car. So values have been hit hard for restoration projects. It costs money and people are thinking twice before they have them done, rightly so. But I'll document it all in these videos. I wanted to show you the nasty bits first, and hopefully you'll join me in the next one where things are a little bit clearer and we've got a full assessment of what needs to be done on the car.